This is the Amp Hour Podcast, recorded February 25th, 2014. Episode 186, Horme, Hostility, Hypochondriac.
Welcome to the Amp Hour. I'm Dave Jones from the EEV blog.
And I'm Chris Gamble of Contextual Electronics.
Who is not in the Nerd Cave today.
I'm on the road, man. I'm all over the place.
Right. Barely a day went by before you would ditch your day job. Then you were, screw this, I'm on the road.
Exactly. Well, I'm now in sunnier climates, you know, I get to get away from Cleveland, and it's... Right. You'd do the same if you lived in Cleveland, let's just say that.
Right. So you're in LA at the moment?
Yeah.
Sorry, Pasadena. Where is Pasadena?
Well, it's north of LA? No, east of LA. Yeah. I don't northeast. I don't know. I don't do. I'm not very good with geography, but yeah, right. I'm in Pasadena. Yes.
Well, look, let's just say that west of LA, you're going to be pretty wet. Okay?
That's true. Yeah, far enough west, and you get to you. So,
well, no, you don't. You've got to go south as well.
Yeah, south as well, right? Yeah,
we're on the other side of the equator, dude.
Right. Of course. Right. The toilet's flushing the other direction.
Right? Yeah, it goes down the other direction. Yeah. You do really suck at geography.
It's all right.
Anyway, so that's why you're echoey today, because you're in some silly open plan office thing. Yep.
Yeah, I'm in a big cavernous room, and hopefully I don't sound too much like from one cave to another, right?
Right. To a corporate cave. Yep.
Yeah.
Corporate cell.
Yeah. Yep.
Otherwise known as a cubicle.
Yeah.
And I'm at home today because the internet at my office has died.
Yeah.
I don't know what's wrong there. I have visions of that being a nightmare to fix, so that's not good.
It's probably the U.S. government coming for you, right? It's probably
That's it. I am, yes, folks, on a U.S. watch list,
which we knew.
Yeah. Or at least somebody called David Jones is.
Yeah.
So
of
there
course.
You go. Yep.
Well, congratulations, man. The prophecy has come true.
It went viral, dude.
I know.
It's everywhere.
Both me and you are on Hackaday's front page right now. It's weird.
What are you doing on Hackaday's front page?
Oh, so Mike, the editor of Hackaday, will be out here in Pasadena as well, and we're going to be getting beers, and we're inviting people tomorrow.
Okay.
So if people watch, I think the Hackaday Twitter account, we're going to actually announce where we'll be sometime tomorrow afternoon.
Right. So that's news enough to make Hackaday. Chris Gamble's drinking beer. Let's.
Apparently, yeah. No, I think it's more Mike is in town. I think that's the real thing, and Chris will happen to be there. That's the real thing. So
right there you go.
Yeah, if it was just Chris Gamble's drinking beer, it would be more of an RSS feed, Twitter, constantly updated kind of thing. Maybe if there was a feed of when Chris isn't drinking beer, that would be a more sparsely populated kind of thing. So,
right. Anyway, let's get to the bottom of this watch list bullshit.
Watch list.
Right? Element 14.
You know, you are the reason this got so much press coverage in the first. You know, if you would have just not complained about it, I'm just saying, you know.
Right. I shouldn't complain that
exactly.
a UK company, right? Not a US company, a UK company selling parts in Australia that are already stocked in Australia, and they are not US parts, and
they're not US parts. Okay.
No, and I get flagged by a US. I get flagged on a US government watch list because a UK company is selling parts to an Australian in Australia that are already stocked here. You got to be shitting me.
Yeah, that is kind of insane.
Right.
Like
how that
chain of events happens. Yeah. I mean, so you said you wrote on somewhere that you actually got a response. Was it Twitter you wrote you got a response?
Yeah, it took them 24 hours or something, but they did respond. The managing director of Element 14, Australia, responded. See, a lot of people said, oh, look, this can't be right? This is so outrageous that it can't be right. They were pulling my leg. It was a joke or they're mistaken or something like that. But no, the managing director of Element 14 Australia has come back and said, yes, sorry, we do this. It's a requirement under US law, right? Even though they're a UK company.
Yeah.
It's a requirement, a US trade law that they check names against this US database.
So
right?
across their entire organization? Is that the idea?
Across
because
their
they sell in
entire
the US?
Because they have trade deals with the US, they're obligated to extend that over the whole thing, the whole organization, regardless of where it is.
Never underestimate the power of American lawyers, apparently.
Unbelievable. Or the American fear factor. Right?
Yeah,
it's a total fear, right? This is not written into law. This is not lawful,
no,
right?
Yeah, this is self-policing. You're totally right. Yeah, I'm with you on this
self-policing
one,
based on fear of the U.S. government and losing their trade deal or whatever.
Well, I don't know about the U.S. government. I would think it's more about the U.S. market, right? Because it's like, okay, everybody has a choice.
Of course,
you know, it's self-policing. You have a choice whether or not you want to do this kind of policing. But the whole idea is that if they don't do it, then they can't participate in the U.S. market, and that's the where
thing.
The money
that's
is.
the bottom line, right? And of course, in the U.S. there are Newark, right? Oh well, no, they're Element 14 in the. Are they Element 14 still in?
They're doing some kind of switch over, but they're doing both still.
Newark or whatever, right?
Yeah.
So. Yeah.
You know, this actually is it has a similar analog. I mean, it's kind of like with the Chinese censorship of the internet, right? It's like you don't have to do anything you don't want to do, right? It's all self-policing, right? For like, and Google pulled out of the Chinese market for that kind of reason, where they said we don't want to censor content, and because of that, they pulled out of the market because they weren't allowed. They couldn't get a license at that point, and it's like I guess it's. I think in both cases it is stupid, right? But it's just kind of a choice to play. So
totally stupid. And it even gets more stupid because they knew about it, of course, and they actually told me how to get around it. They gave me an official workaround, like, you know.
Yeah.
So what's the point? It's just ridiculous.
Yeah, that does kind of beg the question.
It is. I've since found out this is not a secret list, and it is called the Denied Trade Screening thing. It's actually on Wikipedia, right? And it's apparently this is a very common thing for organizations to have to do. It
is keyed against your name, is that right?
It's keyed against name only, apparently. So someone called David Jones is on the list. Apparently, if I use David L. Jones, right, I probably may not get flagged. But I'm just going to switch my name to Marty McFly, unless people have a better idea.
What says that you have to use your legal name then? Is it just based on what you're using as a credit card or what?
Well, I guess, yeah. Well, and your account could be under any name, but if they ask you for ID for picking up your parts, I guess, well, I have to whip out my Marty McFly ID.
Marty McFly,
but they don't check
commemorative
They don't
ID.
check the ID anyway when you pick up parts. You just sign for it and say, hey.
Well, and I guess we should mention this too. So the reason this list exists is the same reason that there's like ITAR when you have to like check boxes for like I know that when you download software from TI, they always make you check big boxes.
Oh, do they?
Like,
right.
Yeah, they said, you won't use this for propagation of terrorist software,
nuclear weapons, and
ITAR being international trade and regulation. So Tony Long, one of the guys who was on the show in the past talking about radar stuff, he actually had some problems getting his product up and going because it is something that's on that list. I mean, when I was at Keithley, they had products that were on that list. There's lots of things where it's usually something to do with nuclear proliferation type stuff, but it's like you can't sell to certain countries, and because I don't know all the rules, but I do know that if they trace it back to you through and then you would check that box that at that point you're in deep doo-doo kind of thing.
Right.
Yeah. And it's not like you want nuclear missiles to go to bad places, right? It's just like you just want your parts, just like the rest of us.
Well, I wouldn't mind it.
Okay. And why are you on this list again, Dave?
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. It's just ridiculous. I can understand maybe if the parts were manufactured in the US and are being shipped out of the US, right? We've all been, we're all familiar. Everyone in the industry is familiar with this bullshit of, well, anyone overseas is, right? You probably haven't encountered it all that much, but, but overseas, getting parts from DigiKey or anyone else, from the official providers. Yeah, you've got to often sign waivers that say, you're not going to use these in nuclear weapons, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah,
and,
we've talked about it on the show a couple times before. I remember that.
Absolutely.
And that's why I saw your rant on your blog today. I'm like, oh, Dave's just complaining. He's said this stuff before. He just wanted to write a text post. I know it.
But do you think I have a valid reason to complain? I think I do.
I don't know.
This is a UK company. Like, this has nothing to do with the US.
I know. I do agree with that. I think that but again, it's all self-policing, right? Because you also have a choice to then go to a supplier that isn't, that doesn't comply with this stuff because they don't want to or they don't operate in the US. You have that choice. And I think
it still doesn't make it right. Yeah, I have the choice, but it still doesn't mean that I shouldn't be able to complain that the whole system is fundamentally wrong.
You definitely have a right to complain. I have no argument with that.
There you go.
But I think what it comes down to is that it's in a market system. You have choices to go elsewhere, and if it really does bug you, I think you should.
I do, but it's still if nobody complains, then they don't fix the system.
Well, I guess what is the system? I mean, you're saying though that like
the system, the U.S. government overreaches everywhere, outside their legal jurisdiction.
But this isn't overreaching, Dave.
No, it is. It's totally
It's not.
overreaching.
This is just like China and the internet. I think this is the exact same thing as China and the internet because it's self-policing. Now, if they said that you cannot get that stuff, right? This is not the U.S. government holding your parts in customs. This is Newark Element 14 holding your stuff.
Yeah, for fear of losing their U.S. trade deals or whatever it is, right?
But that's self-policing again.
But it's the US putting these policies in place that often are not legal by any international standard, right? And and companies being fearful of this thing. It's you can't not take blame away from the US government. You can't.
Okay, yeah, fine. I'll agree with that as much as I'll agree with the censorship on Chinese internet. I think the same kind of thing about that, right? Yeah, it's overreach, but people deal with it every day, and you have a choice, and
okay, let's stop talking about that. Here's another interesting one, which I didn't put on the list, but I just thought of because it came up last night. The companies involved shall remain nameless, but I got an email from a legal staffer, one of the legal people at a company who shall remain nameless, and there is a Chinese company that is one of the manufacturers, right? There is a Chinese company that is using their intellectual property, right?
Okay.
Using their IP. Okay, fair enough. But what they requested...
Wait, has that happened before?
Yeah, I know. Go figure, right?
Whoa.
But what they have requested is that, well, they've done a search and they've found references to this product. People have been discussing this Chinese product on the EEV blog forum. Huh. So they have actually, requested if I could remove and continue to moderate the forum so that there is no mention of this Chinese product.
Huh.
It's like, are you shitting me? You've got to be kidding me.
Yeah. So what'd you say, David?
I politely said, no, I will not do this.
That was pretty polite, yeah.
Yeah.
So were there veiled threats or anything like that, or no?
Oh, not real. No. It was quite civil. It was written in usual, legalese to kind of, or not quite scare you, but kind of, give you the heebie-jeebies a bit about saying no. Yeah. But no, it wasn't a demand. It wasn't a cease and desist. It was a request. And they use the excuse that you know, look, it's bad reputation for your forum to have this information on here. And I had to reply, well, I'm sorry, but
Obviously,
it would
you've
be
never been on my forum before.
a forum. No, it would be 1,000 times, many orders of magnitude worse if I actually started to censor talk about a particular product. That's just, you know, like, it's just
Well, I think it
bullshit.
all comes down to the same point, though, right? In that case, they don't have any leverage over you, right? They didn't have leverage.
None.
That person did not have leverage over you in order to do that kind of thing. Maybe if they decided to take legal action and they had some kind of grounds, or they wanted to drag you into a legal lawsuit. But I think in the case with the Chinese internet and with the U.S. watch list type stuff, the leverage is you want our business, and that's really what it comes down to. It's dollars and cents. And
well, they can stick their business. I will happily tell this company to piss off forevermore if they take this further. I mean, you know, and
right.
Yeah. No, screw it. No, there's absolutely no legal basis for this. And they know it, of course. And they know
Of course,
it.
yeah.
You could tell that by them trying to use the excuse that, it'll get a bad reputation for my forum. You know, it's that's the only excuse they've got. You know.
Well, it's
and even
it's
that's
interesting
wrong.
Seeing how this stuff, I mean, kind of manifests itself across. I mean, because the internet really brings together a lot of different cultures and a lot of different, you know, just different legal frameworks and different stuff like that. I mean, like, it really is the great unifier.
The whole international can of worms. You know,
exactly, right?
Before the internet, international law was pretty easy. I thought, well, in
exactly.
comparison,
It's like, you don't agree with us, we don't let you into our borders, and you can't do anything at that point. And now it's not like they stop packets at the door, and if they do, well, that's going to be a much bigger issue.
And they would if they could. That's why I'm fighting this shit. Why I'm complaining, because if you let it get out of hand, that's what it ends up as, right? They will be stopping freaking packets at the door, and it's just ridiculous.
I think part of you is being an idealist. I think the other part of you is just complaining. But yeah, that's just because I know you now, man. Come on.
Right.
Yeah. Well, I do agree that. So, what is the ultimate thing then? So you just changed your name a little bit, and you got past this silliness.
Oh, the Element 14 thing.
Yeah.
Oh, I haven't done it yet, but yes, for future orders, I'll simply change my name. I'll use Marty McFly, you know, and see how it flies. If it doesn't, no pun intended, on a hoverboard.
Yeah, I love it. Oh, that's great, man.
Yeah, so I'll turn up and say, "Do you have an order for Marty McFly?" And
did you see Did you see that they're talking about actually making the shoes now? Someone actually posted this on the
yes,
the
they
forum,
are apparently. Well, it's one designer at Nike said that it's in the planning stage. Whether or not it actually happens, I don't know. You know,
gotta get it, man. It's almost 2015. Come on,
I know.
The future is now.
Jeez, it's not that far away, is it? It's like
it's not
10 months away. 9.
Yeah,
almost.
But I don't know what the date was in the movie, though.
But 2015 is, you know.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's on the way.
No, I think people won't take the exact date. They'll just go, it's 2015. I want my freaking hoverboard.
I want my freaking hoverboard. That's right. Yeah.
That's it.
Oh
boy.
So speaking of time running down, I'm already in week 6 of contextual electronics.
How's it going, dude?
It's going good. It's getting kind of crazy just in terms of like time required for people to do, trying to get people to do layout and stuff and follow along with what I'm doing and then them doing. And just layout takes a while, right? I mean, especially when you're getting started. I don't know how...
I thought you've already done the layout, though. I thought that was in one of the videos you gave them, or is it a...
So there's a small board that was part of, like, the Getting to Blinky board was like a little board that was like a little test. And that's all done. I mean, that was a YouTube, just a kind of like a sampler of the whole content. But then the whole project has been like getting up through, building this thing called the Bench Buddy and actually getting it up through. We've picked out parts and associated footprints and everything, and then now we're finally in the layout. And I know that's saying 6 weeks in getting into layout is kind of insane, but when you're trying to get a group of people doing it, it actually and explaining everything along the way, it takes a while. So it's going good.
For an experienced designer, there might only be a couple of days' work and get into the PCB layout stage. Your schematic and your BOM and your design, but explaining it to a beginner. Yeah, I can totally understand how that takes 6 weeks.
Yeah, I wrote a guest post for Octopart actually yesterday, and I was talking about it, and I was saying, what a significant portion of like design for me these days is just kind of figuring out what parts are in the market and like what actually will fit, and then kind of like just filtering out all the crap that I don't need, It really is like that is a significant portion, I think, of like electronics design these days, is just trying to figure out what's actually out there and then what actually makes sense. Especially if you're jumping into something new, right? If it's like a whole new segment for you or something like that.
The problem is there's too much choice. Right? There's a chip out there for everything, right? Or there's 10 chips out there that do the job and you've got to decide between them. It was much easier 20 years ago when you I want to do this thing. Okay, I'll use 57.4 series logic, and I'll use op amps, and I'll use, like it was just, your decisions were actually easier back then.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I talk to people about that all the time with like these analog, like that. I keep coming back to that same chip that we talked about 2 weeks ago.
The other chip that had everything.
Yeah, but I mean, there's
the kitchen sink building.
Exactly, it's got everything in there, but it's so specified for an industry. But even still, now there's three different vendors trying to make something very specified for that industry, and then you have to compare them all and try to side by side and do pricing and all that other crap.
Read the 200-page data sheet to make sure there's no gotcha in there.
Oh, yeah. Oh, God, the gotchas. The gotchas are always buried deep within.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's just so hard. And sometimes you just don't have the time and take that risk. You haven't read every page of that data sheet. You haven't identified every gotcha. You cross your fingers and hope, well, I think it'll be right. I was talking to some people about that too, and it's like, I think in this day and age with like, because there's so much choice and because there's just so much stuff out there, that the default is, well, I'm doing kind of this application, let me go see what Dave's doing, that. I think that's very valid. You go see what your friends are doing, you go see what people online are doing, you try and find which chips are they using. Oh, it worked for them. It'll, I'm doing a similar
exactly.
thing.
Yeah, and I think that there's a lot of benefit in that, and like in finding good designers to follow like yourself, like seeing what you're using, like and then especially if there's background information about it, that's a good entry point into a lot of different components. So I think we're going to see more of that in the future. We'll see. I mean,
Totally agree. Hey,
so
the big news today in the test instrument world. Tektronix have released a new scope.
Oh, is that today? I thought their countdown still said 13 days.
No, they got it wrong. They goofed up the timer. It's the 25th. They screwed up the timer. Yeah, their code was totally wrong. There's talk about that on the forum.
Oh, man, that's funny.
Yeah. Oh, boy.
Well, so were you right? I mean, was it? Did you didn't have like a fake document that we talked about a couple weeks ago?
No, it's real.
Okay.
In fact, my unit is sitting here in customs here in Sydney. It got caught.
Ooh,
I warned them. I did a conference call with them the other couple of weeks back, and they were going to send me a unit. And we spent 10 minutes talking about, look, if it's over $1,000, it's going to get flagged and it's going to get caught in customs. Right, if you mark the value over $1,000 Australian dollars. And they were noting it down. Yeah, we'll make sure it doesn't. We don't want it to be held up. And sure enough, it gets held up in customs, and I had to pay the customs fee and the GST.
Oh, no.
Yeah, and I still haven't heard back, so it's going to take at least another day or two to process it before it even gets on the truck to get to me. So much for having a video ready, on the launch day. It's Tech's fault,
yes.
Not mine.
Plans are about as good as the paper they're written on, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, yeah, I mean... So yeah, you're right.
So yeah, it's marketing have obviously gotten hold of it, and it's a 6-in-1 scope in quote marks. You might read it 6-in-1 in my best radio voice, which I don't have. And one of the 6-in-1 instruments is the protocol serial decoder. It's like nobody ever says that's an instrument.
It's a feature.
Exactly. It's just bullshit.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, it's got a spectrum analyzer built in. That's the thing that goes down to that is built into even the base model hardware. So you buy the 100 megahertz dual channel version, and it comes with the spectrum analyzer built in. And
which is pretty cool.
It's pretty cool, but there's two things with it. A, if you buy the 100 megahertz oscilloscope, your spectrum analyzer is software limited to 100 megahertz. Wah.
Which is not very cool.
Fail. Not very cool. It's still useful for like switch mode power supply stuff or, something like that, but it's no good for its advertised market, which is, why everything's Wi-Fi, right? The reason that they're doing this, making a spectrum analyzer standard, is that they've done the research, they've proudly done the market research and said, 40% of new designs have wireless in them. So all our new scopes are going to have, a spectrum analyzer built in. Well, okay, but you've just raised your bill of materials cost drastically because they need this.
If I want to buy a 400 megahertz scope or 500 megahertz scope, and I don't give a shit about that, I mean, maybe I would use it for EMI testing, but I don't know about everything else.
Well, that's the thing. So unless you know that you're going to need to upgrade to the 3 gig spectrum analyzer in the future, then the spectrum analyzer built in. Having that hardware built in raised their bill of materials cost so much that their entry-level 100 megahertz dual-channel scope is now $3,300 or something, right?
Oof,
it's like, right? No, they just can't compete at that low level. And
so I guess we're going to Rigol, huh?
Well, you have to go somewhere else because, that is, if you're just after a scope, that is just, no, they've put themselves into a niche marketplace. And I'm not saying they're necessarily wrong, that, everyone's going to be, needing a spectrum analyzer and stuff, but they really have painted themselves into a bit of a corner, a market corner, I think, a niche corner.
Right. It's the same. It's the innovator's dilemma all over again, right? I mean, you keep moving up market, you keep trying to get higher and higher margin stuff, which they've been doing for a long time.
Yeah, of course,
and rightly
which
so. I mean, they're making
because
they're trying to fund the really high end stuff too, which helps a lot of people, right?
And if they want to abandon the low end market, well, that's fine. I mean, that's a business decision if they want to do that. I don't think
that's fine. I think that if you read the innovator's dilemma, that is the end. If you dump the low end,
if you take that as gospel, right?
Yeah, exactly. If you dump the low end, basically you lose connection to tons. I mean, think about how many people get started with tech scopes, right? Or even at Agilent scopes, or even say someday Rigol takes the same path, right? And they dump their low end stuff, and by the end, then you only have your high end stuff. Well, now think of all those people that grew up using a Rigol scope and eventually moved on to a higher level, and then they dump the low end. Well, who's using new stuff, right? Well, now there's some, South African company or, Taiwanese.
Someone will come up and take over.
Yeah, someone else. Yeah. Exactly. It's the same, the pattern just keeps repeating itself, which is why that book is so awesome.
But then again, this is not designed as an entry-level scope. I mean, it's priced for, it's not a sub-$1,000. It was never designed for the sub-$1,000 market.
Right. No, I mean, that's totally true.
I mean, when we're talking about entry-level scopes, it's always the sub-$1,000 kind of market. That has always been, I did that video when I looked through 20, 30 years worth of Electronics Australia magazines at the test gear. And even over 30 years, the entry-level price was, around that $700-800 figure. It always was, and it's just
by design too. I mean, they don't want to just cut their feet out from under them.
Yeah.
So, and people, and of course, people are going to be buying, 265s, right? Or is it 265? Yeah. Yeah, the 265 for the next 100 years, right? And they'll keep fixing them. And
the Tech 465.
465, thank you.
Yes.
Sorry.
Mr.
I was looking. No, I was thinking of I have a 425 at home, and I was trying to do the math of which one I was doing. Yeah, anyways.
Oh, dear.
Whatever.
Yeah, whatever. Standard response when he fails at something he's supposed to be good at.
You'd be surprised how often I say whatever.
And the other thing is, right, so, tech aren't wrong, right? There is a need, there is a genuine need for spectrum analyzers built in all that mixed domain stuff. In fact, if you want that, they're the only choice on the market, right? And the MDO 4000 is brilliant in that respect, in that how it
minus startup time, right? That was the slow one.
Oh well, yeah, the response is quite slow. But if you want to do mixed domain, debugging and capture and stuff, well, it's an absolutely brilliant tool. There's nothing else on the market like it. Unfortunately, this MDO 3000, they've deliberately made the decision to save cost, and now you can't actually, even though it's called a mixed domain oscilloscope, you can't actually tie the two domains together and do synchronous sampling between them. You can't actually time correlate between the two like you can in the 4000 series. And, well, I think that's a fail. It's kind of like, so in effect, it's just a spectrum analyzer whacked in the box. I have yet to see how much tie-in there is between them, but I have been told by them that, they've deliberately taken out this hardware to save cost. This hardware that ties the two together. So, And once again, that was a marketing decision, not only to lower the cost, but also that they told me that forget the exact words, so forgive me, but the customers at this sort of price point aren't really doing that cross-domain, analysis type thing. They still need the spectrum analyzer, but they don't want to, correlate that, this little digital word that I sent to my microcontroller has suddenly caused a little blip on my Wi-Fi signal or something, right? They don't want to do that. Right. If they want to do that, well, we have a scope for you. Buy the MDO 4000 instead.
Yes. Just look behind this curtain.
It's a deliberate decision. So whether or not they succeed, well, the market will decide, of course. So I don't know. I'm sure it's a pretty good scope. I'm quite excited to try it out, and but it's stuck in customs.
So, what you're going to punt this one then too? Next time you have a field day, is that the plan?
Right.
I was watching that video this morning.
Yeah, I had 25 scopes in my boot at the
25. Oh man. What? So you were literally having a field day?
Yeah, I was having it. Well, I sold like 9 of them in the end. So.
Oh, that's not too bad. Yeah.
It's not too bad.
How much are you getting per scope? Are you allowed to talk about that or no?
Oh yeah, I was selling them for. Well, it varied in price from $280 down to, I don't know, like $50 was 30 was the cheapest one. One that was just cactus or something, but I practically gave that one away.
Yeah, so $280 for what kind of scope?
Like they were all Tech TDS 220s.
So that's not a bad scope. I mean, it's kind of an ugly display, but it's still, what is it, 100 megahertz?
It's 100 megahertz dual channel. Yeah, it's only got the 2.5K memory and the mono screen. And it's not that fast, but it still works. It's still useful.
It's solid. It's solid. It's reliable. Yeah.
It's a useful little scope. So they were selling like hotcakes, really. I had huge crowds around my car. It was sometimes I like 3 people deep, like in a big arc around my, because people
step on up, folks.
Because
so Dave,
people
you found a new career here.
Exactly. Flogging
you're hawking test equipment like we always knew you would someday on a street corner, right?
I've been flogging test gear for a long time. Nothing new there, but I guess people see like all these oscilloscopes all stacked up on the ground. I'll go check that out, And
it draws the eye. And I noticed that you, as you were walking around in my head, I had Greg Charvat whispering in my ear tonnage, like he did it. He wasn't actually whispering in my ear, but that's what he always talked about when he walked around the Hamvention was tonnage. You try and find the biggest, heaviest metal box you can because it's got old HP test gear probably in it.
Right. Yep.
Yeah.
That's
a good time.
Yeah. It was good, but it was exactly the same as last year, like the actual thing. So, I didn't really film much of it, but, yep.
Well, that's what it comes down to. I mean, like any flea markets like that, eventually, the good stuff gets picked over, and then the rest is just the junk that's always there. So
right.
That's the downside.
Bring it back
Speaking
next
of picked over, did you have you happened to see my post about beagle bones?
No. What about
you
beagle
can't get
bones?
one anywhere in the world right now. BeagleBone Black, sorry.
Ah, right. Okay. Why?
I haven't been able to find out. So Octopart posted about just like, because they track that kind of stuff. So they posted about it, and I think Kreidner responded on Twitter and stuff like that. But I think it's just that they're that popular.
Right.
I think.
I thought the Raspberry Pi was more popular, but they churn out. They got no supply problems because they churn out like 1 million a month or something. Crazy.
Well, I think that's what it comes down to is like, so I know that Circuit Co down in Dallas is building these things, and I think they're building them. I mean, I'm guessing they're building them as fast as possible, but it's probably just more of a, building a bunch continuously versus building up. Like, I think I remember seeing the Raspberry Pi tour, and that those guys were just like, I think that's all that facility built was that. And
well, I don't
sure
think so,
Co.
but they did dedicate a number of lines to it. That's how these factories usually work. When they get big deals like this, they'll dedicate.
Okay.
They might have 10 lines and they'll dedicate 5 lines to.
I gotcha.
This. Yeah.
See, but the thing that's different, I think, is like, so like people are. I mean, like Ninja Blocks, right? I mean, they started built on top of a BeagleBone. But right. I mean, like, there's other companies that are actually literally building on top of development platforms these days.
Yeah.
And so these actually become supply chain issues in themselves of buying the finished goods board.
Yeah, of course.
In order to integrate it into another assembly. It's kind of crazy. I mean, that's kind of like I don't think it's new by any stretch of the imagination, right? There's been PC-104 boards and everything else for years.
It's been going on for decades.
But I don't. What about the scale, though? I think the scale is kind of. It seems different. And maybe I'm wrong about that. I mean, it's just because it's it's not just like one company buying from one other company. It's like lots and lots of people buying from one company. That's why
it's just
that's why it seems
and
different.
They don't cater for these kind of issues. I'm being caught short with not enough microcurrents. I mean,
already?
It's I need more microcurrents. It's like,
didn't you build 800 extra or something? Did you already sell all those?
No, but I haven't built those and got them yet. So I've only built 240 so far or something. And yep.
Right.
No, it happens all the time. These companies just don't care because nobody wants to manufacture, a buttload more than what they're, what they think is going to sell. So they're going to operate lean. They're not going to manufacture 10,000 if they think they're only going to sell 1,000. So,
I think the question though is should we start seeing like all of these things like the Raspberry Pi and the BeagleBone Black and like your products as well, they all have these list prices, right? But should we start seeing surge prices on them, right? I mean, should we see people bidding them up on eBay and stuff like that? Yeah, I don't know about gouging, but I think it's just a market condition. That's always going to be a one-off, right? That's always going to be a one-off thing. It's not like somebody's out there got a secret stash of 10,000 of them and they're going to go, hey, now's my chance. I'm going to sell them at double the price to the market. It's like... You never know, though. They might, right?
Well, they might.
There's people that...
Sure.
They do that for chips. They'll sit on chips
they'll sit on surplus chip
and
not even surplus, but any chip. They will. You want these, do you? Well, I noticed that the whole world is sold out, and I'm the only supplier, and I'm going to charge you $10 instead of $1. And
that's the basis of part brokers, right? I mean, I figure that's how I'm going to retire is buy some very unique and awesome component and sit on a couple reels of them and sell them back to the market and move to Fiji. I don't know. I think it's all about just knowing which part it is, and taking that leap. And maybe BeagleBone Black is the one. It's probably not, but
no. Somebody could have guessed this. Maybe somebody could have taken a chance. But I don't think there's any bulk prices on these. Like I think the price is the same whether or not you buy one or whether or not you buy 1,000. So maybe.
I'd imagine so. Yeah. I mean, because really, it's meant to be a platform for like
a one-off platform.
Obviously, selling. It's for selling. It's promoting TI, but it's also being an open source platform, so that's good. I mean, I was talking to someone about it though, and he he mentioned he's like for $45 you get a bunch of headers, you get a Linux platform, you get a dual core ARM. It's like. Why wouldn't you start with that? From that perspective, we should. I mean, it's not like we're seeing any reduction in the amount of platforms that are out there, but maybe in the amount of, in the costs that are out there, and in terms of the platform, selling the platform as an actual starting point for a design versus just selling a development platform in order to go design something in the future. it seems like we might see more of that.
I'd totally do that. I mean, if I had a design that required, that amount of grunt and that sort of, running on Linux and doing, driving HDMI displays or, something like that required all that processing, I wouldn't roll my own. I'd just base it on, the Raspberry Pi or the BeagleBone. Yeah, of course.
Right?
Totally.
I mean, it's already proven, there's community out there that'll support you.
As long as it met the form factor requirements. But even if it didn't, right, these are open source, right? Even if it didn't, these are open source. I'd take the design and put it in the form factor I needed, and hopefully it should just work straight off the bat. Just load the firmware in and away you go. That's the whole idea of it.
So if you did that, I'm just kind of thinking out loud now. If you did that, and so a lot of these will only give you Gerbers. I'm not sure if the BeagleBone Black.
I don't know the details whether or not they're fully open.
But here's a bigger question though. So if you only have the Gerbers, could you in theory take just the Gerbers and just drop those into a layout and then do a secondary page and tack into that Gerber setup?
It doesn't work like that, and it gets real messy. Nah,
I've just never thought of doing that, but it would. This kind of situation seems like it would.
But you could in theory, yeah.
Because you would have to do like an overlay layer
in
to
practice that doesn't work. You're just better off spending a day or two reverse engineering the thing. It's just nasty. It doesn't work.
Okay.
In theory, you might be able to hack it in, but it's really ugly. No, you would just spend a day or two. You would redraw it from the schematic, because if you got the schematic, you can just redraw it, and Bob's your uncle.
Right. Which is the basis of a lot of the arguments for like closed source versus open source tools in open source open source hardware. Right. It's like you're probably going to do that for a lot of projects. Right. You're not going to necessarily just grab someone's entire project. You're gonna go redraw it or redo it and re-engineer it.
Yep. This brings up a recent debate on the EEVlog forum at the moment that is raging. Somebody complained how the original poster, I forget who they are, but they complained. I'm sick of all these companies calling themselves open hardware, but they won't give you the actual CAD file. All they give you is a PDF of the schematic, and that's it. And that's it.
No
that's
Gerbers?
Not open. And no Gerbers. Well, even if they gave you the Gerbers, they still, no. Usually, no. I think he was complaining that no, they don't give you the Gerbers. All they do is give you the schematic and say it's open, right? And is it open? And I made the argument that, well, it's not closed. Okay, so if it's not closed, therefore it is it is an electronic product by definition.
Yeah.
Yep. If you don't get the schematic, by definition, an electronics product is closed, right? But if they give you the schematic, then it's open in some form. Okay, it doesn't meet the open source hardware definition. It's not closed, right? It doesn't meet the open source hardware definition, and you can't use the logo, right? You can't use the logo, but it's still open. It's still open because the whole industry, the whole industry works on levels of openness, right?
Yeah. This is the basis of dev boards, right?
Exactly. I made the example, even, the holy grail of open source hardware, right? The Arduino, for example, right? They don't go and give you their full. They're not entirely open, right? They don't go and give you their full bill of materials with all their costings on it and all of their suppliers and all of their contacts and all that sort of jazz, right? They don't give you that, right? So at some point they're drawing the line. So, I mean...
Yeah, we've talked about that before with the different lines. And
and it's just a different line.
Yes. Just a different line. That's a good way to say it. That's very.
But I think it's still open. I think the definition of using the word open is that for an electronic product is that you at least give the schematic and the and the source code, of course, if there's any micros at that level, and then the rest is just manufacturing, right? Because a PCB is just manufacturing, right? It has nothing to do with the actual you can still learn from the schematic how it works. You can still duplicate it. You can put the effort in yourself and completely duplicate their board, right? All the information's there. It's just a bit harder for you.
Yeah, exactly. It's just it's like locks don't. It's like having the key to a deadbolt, right? Locks don't keep thieves out. It just slows them down. So,
right.
Like not giving the schematic to someone in China, right? That's going to copy your product anyways.
Right.
It just slows them down. Like they're going to copy your product if they want to copy your product. So, yeah. That's a good point. So, now you bring up giving away source code as well. I actually asked this question on the subreddit this week.
Right.
Do you choose parts based on whether there are code libraries available?
Yes, always. Yeah.
Yeah.
If I have to do something, if I have to do something like, talk to a HDMI display or something, and I'm going to damn well check before I choose that part. Is a library, I don't want to write my own freaking HDMI driver library. I don't want to write my own VGA display driver. I don't want to write my own I2C interface driver, which I've done before. Screw that. Right? Of course I'm going to choose a part if it doesn't have a library.
See, now, when I asked this question, I was actually thinking, I'm always thinking about analog stuff. So it's like, I was thinking about like the SPI driver to talk to an analog to digital converter, right?
Right.
And, and those are they're getting increasingly difficult and, having more and more registers and stuff like that.
Oh, you're right. That's what you're talking about. Right. You're talking
that's what I was talking about.
Chip support. Right.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, I totally, like with drivers and stuff, like I don't even know where I'd start with that, but, or with, like display driver stuff, but with analog stuff, because you're going to be doing so many different things anyways, it might be just as much time to write your own driver.
I generally,
versus others, so.
I'm happy to choose a chip that doesn't have a library in that particular case. In fact, I've always done that. I go, oh, well, I've got to write my own library. And generally you want to do your own thing anyway when you're talking to a chip. You generally, you want to have like one team which does, X amount and stuff. It's just, it's not easy to write a generic library for like an analog chip that has, 20 million registers and stuff like that. It's just, well, the info's there in the data sheet. As long as it's a standard interface, I'm more concerned about the interface rather than the actual protocol of the chip.
Yeah,
because once I've got the interface, it's just gone, send byte, it's a SPI bus. Okay, this is the code I've got to spend. Okay, I've got my SPI library, fine. I just send the byte. And, so it's not, it's trivial, really.
Yeah.
So, in that case,
So we actually, there's a lot of good discussion about this on the subreddit as well. And Adam brings up about being bitten as well. I mean, I think sometimes that's what I think about as well. Once you get, you can use a library, but it's all going to be about trust level, right? Because
I've been bitten. Yeah,
you have. What happened there?
I can't remember the exact details. Way back, I found a library on the internet for driving, I think it was an ADC,
First problem. I found the library on the internet,
internet, exactly. And,
I found this sandwich lying on the ground. It looked like a good sandwich, so I just ate it. And I didn't feel well the next day.
And it just didn't work, right? And
Street
I spent a lot of it, and I ended up just ditching it, right?
Yeah.
So, and time wasted, how many day or two did I waste, dicking around with this thing?
Yeah.
And
right. So a lot of people wrote about that too. So like people mentioned like the Adafruit, the CC3000 written. There's like a library by Adafruit, and people mentioned using that, right? Like Adafruit has well-checked libraries, and that's a trust level, right? You use stuff and there's forum support and that kind of thing. And I think the same kind of thing goes with even any kind of, not even third party like Adafruit is, but like vendor libraries and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. It's like if you can look at it and you can see how if it's written sloppily. Like I've seen some sloppy written libraries before that I've decided to forego and write my own.
Yep.
So it's just about, I think it's just a trust level for me at least.
Oh, and, totally. Yeah.
It's just about how you really assess that matters.
Well, if it's on a popular, website like Adafruit, there's probably people out there who've tried it and used it. And if it didn't work, generally it would filter back to them and they'd fix it, So, that trust level's higher there than you found it on, Joe Blogg's website because he did a project 10 years ago and here's the code he dumped on the website,
Right. Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Well, that's the nice thing about if you get in the GitHub flow too, because then if you're pulling in libraries dynamically, you can always get them updated and stuff like that, and as they update, you can see what it breaks in your project as well.
Boy.
Yeah. People when I first asked on Twitter, people thought I was talking about footprint libraries and like schematic symbol libraries, and like if I'd only use parts that had that, and I think. Maybe when I was getting started, that would have been the case. I would have only done that, but that is like, you can update your code on GitHub and you can pull that code back in. You don't get to do that with hardware. That's a one-way road, folks. It's check your footprints. Check your footprints.
Would you only buy chips that are guaranteed to be genuine? DARPA wants you to.
Oh yeah. Well, for my projects or usually that's what it comes down to. That knob that I'm turning there, if I'm turning the cost knob all the way down, then a lot of that genuine, you start to lose confidence that it's going to be 100% confidence that it's going to be a genuine part,
Yep.
And so what's DARPA want to do?
DARPA, they've got a program. It's like, is it a contest or they want somebody to develop a foolproof way to embed something within electronic components. Okay, to identify them and tag them as genuine, right? And it'd be encrypted and everything else. In fact, they give you the specs, right? Here I go. The DARPA Supply Chain Hardware Integrity for Electronics Defense, and it has an acronym, SHIELD. Yay! Program.
Strategic Homeland in, what is that one on? The Avengers movie, yeah.
This program seeks proposals to develop a small 100 micron by 100 micron component or dielet? What's a dielet? I guess it's a die.
Oh, die,
right?
yeah, like
that you can put on a multi-chip,
die.
Right? That authenticates the provenance of electronic components. Ooh.
I have to say, before we go any further, I know that you're usually the crazy conspiracy theorist one, but with all this NSA crap that's going on, why the hell would anyone do this? Couldn't you wait like a couple more months? Like, let the NSA stuff blow over? We've been talking about this for the past couple weeks. Like, this is a terrible idea. I mean, it's a good idea, but it's a terrible idea.
It's a solution to a problem that need not exist. It's a problem that exists only if you let it. The solution is easy. You buy the parts directly from the freaking manufacturer.
Yeah.
It's not rocket science. And the US military have been bitten by this before, right? Counterfeit chips have ended up in, F-15s and, stuff like that, right? Well, tighten up your purchasing thing. Don't buy from bloody brokers and everything else. Just
that's a tall order. You know what the real problem there? I'm guessing is an F-15 was designed in the 80s, and they're still buying parts from the 80s. And when
and
then their brokers go out, and their brokers go out and they go and buy from that guy who stockpiled parts 15 years ago, expecting to make a ton of money, and guess what? He did.
Yep. Oh, boy.
And the other problem there too is that so they have these they're buying these older parts, and they can. So all U.S.-based military contractors can only buy from within the U.S. And I mean, you talk about a small supply chain. It's tough. It's really tough. That they did hamstring themselves there in that regard because of just how what they would have been better doing is investing in keeping the supply chain in the States,
right? Yeah.
Just like more, like lowering costs, because the fact that all of the packaging technology is now in Malaysia and China and stuff. It's like you try and find a part that hasn't been over to Asia first, right? And it's just it's damn near impossible, especially for advanced components like where they want the highest end FPGAs and they want really reliable mil-spec parts. It's tough. It's tough to do. So
this is just like this is a design by committee solution. It really is.
I wonder if this is how they're going to try and get around having to have stuff built in the U.S. That would actually make more sense.
Ah, right. Okay, because it's, verified from the manufacturer in Malaysia or wherever.
Yeah,
right?
I bet that's what it is. That's that kind of changes the prospect of it, but I don't know. Couldn't people just copy this thing too? I mean, I know there's an encryption engine, but if there's enough money in it, someone's going to do it. So,
they don't claim that's the case. They claim it's for make sure they're not recycled components, make sure they're not unlicensed overproductions, make sure they're not test rejects, make sure they're not, clones and copies and all that sort of jazz. It's like, dude,
that's a lot of bureaucracy just to make sure your parts are good. I mean, I guess this would only go in things that are important
in,
for them.
like, even passive stuff. They're talking about, embedding them in resistors and shit like that.
Why is my resistor $25?
Because it contains
0805,
shield.
5% resistor.
Man,
that's silly. That's really silly.
It's fail,
Yeah.
Totally.
So speaking of shipping things out, how goes the progress of your Kickstarter? I saw that you're a licensed agent now. You're basically UPS now, right?
I'm a mailing house, dude. I'm my own mailing house. Yep.
Yeah.
And I finally shipped my first international orders yesterday using the e-parcel system. Finally got it working, and apparently, I am the only one in Australia using this e-parcel system who has realised that their import when you import your database, right? You import your address database. It needs to be in it only accepts a certain character set format. You know how there's Unicode 8 and there's ISO format character sets that encode all of that. Apparently I'm the only one who's realised and complained that their import engine only accepts this one specific format. And if it's not in that character set format, well, it screws up all your international address characters. It converts, I don't know how to say the character names, but, those international characters with the dots above them. And it converts them into a...
That's what that is.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And they convert them into question marks or something, or some other weird, lines that don't make sense. And it's
right,
lucky
so that
I
stuff
noticed
definitely
this.
won't get there.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it might, right? But, based on the postcode or something. But, hey, who wants to risk that? You've got the address wrong. It's just... It's just crazy.
Yeah, you're at the whims of a nice postal carrier.
Of a nice postal character being able to decode it and go, oh, I think they really mean this, and... Yeah, right. Exactly. And, it's not... Like, they've got like a 60-page document detailing the import... the import requirements for this CSV file, right? How to format your CSV file for importing into their database. Right? It's like 60 pages. And not once in there do they mention the character set format that they actually expect. And it's like, oh, man, I had to figure this out on my own. They couldn't help me.
This is just this silliness. This is why people pay for logistic stuff, obviously.
Yeah, of course. Because they've already figured it out. Well, maybe.
Maybe, right.
Yeah,
or they go in and manually edit it.
or they just don't care and they just take your money and ship the shit out and import it in their database if it's wrong format. Who cares?
Because it'll get there when it gets there.
Because when I export the data from Kickstarter, it's in the Unicode 8 format, which is a standard format for international characters, and it loads into Excel and everything just fine because that's the default import into OpenOffice. Well, I use OpenOffice, right? And that's the default import into that and import into Google spreadsheet and everything else. It works fine. But then when if you try and import it into the Australia Post system, fail. So it's lucky I caught that.
It is, yeah.
And because that's a nasty issue. Anyway, there's all that sort of jazz to deal with, and I'm going to have to write my own program to actually pass the data and insert all of these fields that are required by their. I've done 200 manually, but now I've got to do 1,200. So,
Watch out, folks.
no,
Dave's about to start coding.
I'm going to code.
Stand back, everyone.
Yes.
I'm going to use scripting.
No, I'm going to use probably Visual Basic or something to,
Okay. Yeah.
import the CSV file and and then I'll write a proper program that actually I can fill in the fields and everything, and it populates it. Then it exports the correct CSV file and everything. But it's very detailed. You've got to have it in the exact format. So I can now appreciate why the mailing houses charge like a couple of $100 setup, database setup fee, because they've got to process your database, which could be in any hickledy-pickledy format, right, and import into their system and make sure it's right.
Yeah.
What's wrong with hickledy-pickledy?
No, I like that term. I do. It reminds me of like...
right.
I think they said that in Sword in the Stone or something. I don't know.
Right. Anyway, that's
Disney
what they
movie
charged
from
me
the
last
50s.
time. I got charged like $300-400, database setup fee. Last time, and now I can appreciate the amount of effort that some poor schmuck's got to go to import databases.
Yeah,
So,
man.
there you go. It's not easy. It's not easy at all. But this is really good. So I've spent like a month or a month and a half setting up this system, getting it approved, going through all the processes, all the paperwork, and now all this online crap, trying to sort it out. I think I've finally nailed it, and it feels quite satisfying.
Well, good.
Yeah.
It should.
And ironically, it's now the same price to send overseas as it is to send within Australia. Go figure. How does that work?
What? How much does it cost you?
Oh,
Is it that expensive in Australia, or is it just cheap to go overseas?
No, it's just the way the system works in Australia. The parcel, there's a base fee for sending Australia, then you pay per weight, and overseas is just base per weight or something. Or there's a smaller base fee or something, and it's not for all items, but for the items I'm sending, it's now the same price for overseas as it is for Australia, because in Australia I'm getting charged for cubic weight. So even though my product's only 150 grams, right, my microcurrent packed, I'm getting charged like 400 or 500 gram price, because I'm getting charged the cubic weight in Australia. That's just part of the contract. So that's why it's more expensive. So unfortunately, but I don't get charged cubic weight for international shipments. So there you go. There's tons of stuff to this mailing business. I tell you,
imperial, like cubic
right.
hands weight stones per fortnight.
My package is 0.002 furlongs long.
Yeah, right. That's cubed furlongs, Dave. Yeah. Oh man.
I had a friend at work once who used to sneak dimensions into official company documents as a joke, and he'd put units in furlongs per fortnight.
Nice.
and stuff like that. It was great, and no one ever noticed. It was
of course not. Yeah. Well, you wouldn't until you compare it against something else. You're like, oh, what the hell?
Terrific. Oh, I love it.
So I have
what do you have?
Okay.
No.
I have a project we need to work on.
A project.
What? Well, the
we?
Amp Hour community. I want to get a film made. A film about.
Right. Yes.
Did you see this post? Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
About the Traitorous 8. That's what I want to get a film made about that. I don't know how we do it though.
Well, you've got to have a filmmaker.
Yeah. I am in California. I'm near Hollywood. I should just go down there, and I could probably just write a script and hand it to someone important, right?
Yeah. I do know a filmmaker. Granted, he's been working on the Australian documentary.
I was going to say, it's not, that doesn't count.
For 3-4 years now, but he is a world class. He is a world class documentary maker. So it's just that these hobby projects take a long time.
Yeah.
I'm sure he's watching.
So anyways, I want to get a film made of the Traitors 8, which is the story of how Fairchild started. And I'm sure we've mentioned on the show before, but basically they left, what was it? It was, I always get this confused. It wasn't I always get Shockley and Schottky confused. It was Shockley Semiconductor, right?
Yep.
William Shockley.
William Shockley, yep.
Yeah, one of the fathers of the semiconductor. And so he had this company. He was this this hard ass, and basically 8 of them got together, including Gordon Moore. Was it Gordon Moore? And then a couple others. But I think it would be a really cool like story. I don't know. It would be like the
totally
social network meets.
But is there any juice in there? You know, is there any?
Of course there is. You just make it up, man.
Oh right, just make it up. Okay, right, yeah.
Yeah, you know, what we could do is we could have the Winklevoss twins go back in time and sue the Intel founders, and you know. I think it would be good. But apparently there was, someone referenced the Silicon Valley documentary that we did mention on the show a long time ago when it came out about the Silicon Valley, the starting of Silicon Valley, and there was a large part of that in there. So
right.
I don't know. I just think it would be cool. Look, I think you could mix up.
I know how to do it.
How?
Dude.
Don't say crowdfunding.
Just do a Kickstarter. Just do a Kickstarter. Who cares if you don't have the skills to pull it off? You'll get the money, and then you can buy the skills to pull it off.
Then we can hire Kristen Bell and Zach Braff, and yeah, right. All you need is a good intro video, right, Dave?
That's it. That's all you need. Speaking of which, the most ironic Kickstarter project in history.
Oh no! So just a video? Is that all it is?
This was great. No, have you seen this?
I did see this, and it's not the first one. I will mention. I've seen one of these similarly fail before.
Anyway, some dude who obviously had a successful, I haven't gone into details, but obviously had a successful Kickstarter project, so he knows all about how to produce a successful Kickstarter project. So he did another Kickstarter project on writing a book on how to be successful at making Kickstarter projects, and you guessed it, it failed to reach its target of a measly 4,800 pounds.
Yeah,
I
looked at this and I think it's actually kind of reassuring, because as much as we snicker when there's people getting taken in by free energy projects and Kickstarter and stuff like that. Like there is some BS detecting, I think, that goes on there still, and so this is reassuring. It's really just about what do people actually want. I think that's what it really comes down to.
Well, they don't want a book about how to be successful at Kickstarter.
Exactly,
obviously.
It's not a mass market thing. Whereas his other products probably were, and even the free energy scams that get.
Yeah, he realized
they get it funded. They also don't. That's what people want. They want to believe that it's possible. Of course, they're clueless, but
so that's why it ends up being successful. But this guy obviously failed to realize that. Well, he's successful before doesn't necessarily extrapolate over to, a book.
Right. Yeah. Success is not absolute.
No. So anyway, I thought that was hilarious. I had a good chuckle.
So next time Osman sits on the show, we should tell him to start a Kickstarter book, how to succeed in Kickstarter without even trying.
That's it. Oh goodness, I love it.
People would much rather buy RF products than books about stuff.
That's it. Yep. So there you go. That's it. Show's over.
Is that all we got this week?
That's all we got this week. Well, that's all. That's all the time I can afford. I'm busy, dude.
Yeah, I know. We're kind of late this week. This is kind of an odd thing because
we're recording this on a Wednesday. Yeah.
Yeah.
And,
well, your Wednesday, my Tuesday. Yep. Yeah. So this should hopefully post in the same day as it was recorded. I guess the other 2 links I wanted to just mention, we don't have to talk about them. Actually, three links, because I think they are pretty good. Actually, so one of EV blog members posted some really nice pictures of the pictures are beautiful. The 2002, which I've had my hands in before. So that's really nice. And then I don't know if you saw Project Tango, the thing from Google, where they're going to be like 3D mapping the world with a cell phone. That's also definitely worth checking out. Yeah, it was from a couple days ago, so I think it's pretty well explained on the web. But it's also pretty. I think it's pretty cool.
But we're going to end up with the problem with that is we're probably going to end up with a lot of shit quality content, though.
Like the mapping, you mean?
Yeah.
Like someone with shaky hands. Or,
what does it use? People's cell phone camera, right? So
it uses the camera and the GPS, and I think probably the compass and stuff like that.
But cell phones are just shit. They really are. The cameras in them are just shit. It's not going to be the same.
No, the cameras aren't bad. It's all about the calibration of the sensors. If my cell phone has anything to say about it.
Well, if it's in good light, well, I don't know.
No, but
I'm a bit
it does
skeptical, but
well, yeah, I guess we'll have to wait and see on that. I think it's the spectral data, though. I don't think it's actually doing just straight up pictures. I think it's like positional data.
oh yeah,
Watch the video. You'll see what.
Yeah,
You'll see
but
what
still,
it is.
it's using the cell phone camera, right?
Yeah, but then it's like doing a bunch of math on the actual output
Yeah,
from the
but
camera,
you know,
right?
garbage in, garbage out, dude.
I guess so. You think it needs to be like in focus or something? I mean, you set the focus at infinity, and then you just kind of scan it around. I don't know. Software people will figure that out, right? Yeah, it's
right.
And then the last one, the Kickstarter or the Hackaday projects thing, that looks pretty cool too. I got an invite to this. I don't know if you did, but
No.
so Hackaday projects, they're starting up like a shared workspace kind of thing there. So we'll see where that goes as well. With like they're starting to actually develop projects like in a community kind of thing.
Cool.
So I think it's going to be pretty cool.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right,
man. I guess next week we have Alicia White from the Embedded.fm podcast.
Oh.
So we'll talk to her. She's I don't know if she's allowed to talk about it, but I think she's worked on a bunch of she's done a lot of the firmware on what are they called? Like a Fitbit type thing. I don't know if it's actually. I don't think it was actually the Fitbit, but like those kind of things, like personal tracker type stuff.
Those,
so
gadgets.
Low level firmware on that kind of stuff. Yeah, a lot of consumer level firmware. So, and she wrote the book Making Embedded Systems from O'Reilly as well. So, cool. And she has a great podcast that I really enjoy. So, podcast plus next week.
Awesome.
All right, man. We'll talk to you then.
If I haven't been
taken.
Yeah, taken by the black van that's currently sitting out the front.
Yeah. Well, good luck.
See ya.
See ya. See you forever.
Oh, dear.
No more, Dave.